Let me just start by saying this. I heard somebody promise 30,000 subscribers that they would get their EIDL grant if they like and subscribed to his channel. He didn't try to promote getting the EIDL grant. He just promised them an EIDL grant. $10,000 to 30,000 people. He wasn't saying you gotta call Congress, you gotta call. Instead, he was just saying like and subscribe, and I guarantee you're gonna get your money. I would hate to be that guy right now.
1,
30,000 people
2,
times $10,000.
3.
$300 million.
Checkpoint.
He must be rich.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to speaknsee channel, where we go over a lot of things regarding the CARES Act. And one of those things that we go over is the EIDL grant, the grant that we're all wondering what happened. We were supposed to get our $10,000 and we didn't. We've been emailing senators and congressmen and the president. We've been tweeting him, and we've been trying to get everybody, a hold of everybody, saying, hey, where's our money? Where's our money? Anyway, I emailed Rubio a dozen times already saying, hey, what about the EIDL? Comes today, I get email from Senator Rubio, and it goes not according to plan, guys, not according to plan at all. But let's go over this and try to get a picture of where Rubio is headed with the question that I asked him. Hey, what's happening with our EIDL grant that you promised us? Why are we not getting it? Are you gonna support S4227? In response, he says, hey, speaknsee, thanks for taking the time to contact me regarding the Paycheck Protection Program. He didn't say EIDL. First thing that goes through my mind, he didn't say EIDL. Let's see if he says it. Anyway, understanding your views helps me to better represent Florida in the United States Senate, and I appreciate the opportunity to respond. Then he goes on with saying, as you may know, COVID-19 came from China, and you can get it from sneezing. Make sure you get educated on the coronavirus and stay safe. So we scroll on down to the fun stuff now. We just passed that paragraph. Next, he goes on to say, on March 25th, 2020, the Senate unanimously passed the bipartisan Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security CARES Act, PL 116-136. Well, they did. They passed that act. Thanks for reminding me of that, Rubio, because I want to remind you of something. Well, since you mentioned that, I want to mention this to you. I'm going to go to that act. How about if I do that? If we go there and we say, okay, here it is, the CARES Act. Yeah, okay, you guys signed this. Is that what you're telling me? Okay, let me go down here. This is the 116th. Here we are, Public Law 116-136 on 3/27/2020. Okay, this is what you're talking about, Rubio? Okay, let's scroll on down here. Scroll on down here. Scroll on down here. Oh, wait, what's that? Oh, Section 110. Let's look at this real quick, Mr. Rubio. This is what you're telling me you guys signed, right? Okay, great. This section makes small business and certain entities eligible for an advance up to $10,000. They had just put the up to in there. It said $10,000. Anyway, on SBA disaster loan for which they applied in response to COVID-19 pandemic, the SBA shall waive any rules related to the personal guarantee on advances or loans under a certain amount, and requirement that the applicant must be in business for 1 year prior to the disaster, except that no waiver may be made for a business that is not in operation on January 31st, 2020, and the requirement that an applicant be unable to obtain credit elsewhere. This was the Section 1110 Act, right? That's what you're telling me, that we are eligible for $10,000. Okay, back to your email. But thanks for reminding me about that, because that's what I reminded you about, but you didn't mention the EIDL. Now that I've reminded you of that, I'll go back to your email, which is he says, on March 25th, 2020, the Senate unanimously passed the Bipartisan Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security CARES Act, PL 116-136. Thank you for that one. We appreciate the grant, which is a $2 trillion emergency relief package that, among other things, provides small businesses and direct assistance to stay in business and keep American employed, and chairman assistant income all nothing yet. I was able to include Keeping America Workers Paid and Employed Act legislation, which made, okay, here we are. Okay, now we come down to this part where he says, I was able to include Keeping American Workers Paid and Employed Act, KAWP COP It doesn't have a good acronym there, does it? Anyway, legislation which made $349 billion in forgivable loans to small businesses and nonprofits available through the PPP. Here's what he's saying. He's saying, okay, we did that, but during that he was able to actually make 300. That's a huge amount of money here. This is a big amount of money that he's talking about. I was able to make a $349 billion forgivable loan, which is a grant. A forgivable loan is a grant. That's what the EIDL was. It was an advanced grant, advanced loan, which was forgivable. That's why they never called it a grant. They called it an advanced loan, which is forgivable. Rubio here is saying he was able to do a $349 billion in forgivable loans to small business and nonprofits available through PPP. Under the PPP, businesses and nonprofits, you receive a loan worth up to 2.5 times their average monthly payroll. See, here's where we go into red tape. He says, I was able to do a $349 billion, but this wasn't a promise to every business. It was to every business that was making a certain amount of money, could get up to $10,000 in loans or even more. So $349 billion in forgiveness is what he's saying. But as far as the EIDL goes, it's not in the picture he's painting for us at all. Anyway, so he's saying go get the money through the PPP forgiveness is what he's saying. We go to the PPP forgiveness, guys. It's got to, that's the thing, is he's saying don't go through the EIDL. Go through the PPP forgiveness. Under the PPP forgiveness, and nonprofits could receive a loan worth up to 2.5 times the average monthly payroll cost and would be forgiven to the extent of the business spent those funds on payroll costs and non-payroll related operations of business, including mortgage, rent, utility payments. President Trump signed legislation on March 27, 2020. Due to high demand, Congress increased funding for PPP, an additional $310 billion in Payment Protection Program and Healthcare Enhancement. The PL 116 and 139. It's the amended CARES Act. Basically, he's saying it's been amended. It's been changed. The CARES Act has been changed, and now we're dealing with the Flexibility Act. Now we're saying we're going to loan you the money, and instead of 70. Okay, I'll read it and then I'll explain it. This bill increased needed flexibility on how small businesses can utilize PPP loans by extending the period during which a business could spend on its forgivable expenses from 8 to 24 weeks. And modified regulation promulgated by the Treasury Department in order to reduce percentage of a loan that was required to be spent on payroll costs from 75%, we're bringing it down to 60%. This legislation was signed into law by President Trump on June 5th, 2020. He's saying on the day of June 5th, 2020, the first EIDL loan has been amended. 116 to 136 is now 116 to 142. You see, people, laws are amended. They get made and then they get changed as they're going in and they're figuring it out the more and more. A law like for drinking and driving. Say you're drinking and driving. It used to be 1.5. You had to be really drunk. The laws have changed since then because people are getting killed at a lot less than being 1.5. The laws changed because now it's down to 0.5, I believe. It's you can barely have a sip of alcohol in your DUI. But that's what I'm saying. It was amended to a certain extent. Now this is the new law. And that's what he's saying is this law was amended. It was the law. It was the EIDL grant, but that money ran out at $349 billion when they were doing it then. It was part of that allocated funds. So now they allocated another $310 billion and in a different act on April 24th. So it was amended and that law is changed. So those who were in the grant area aren't getting it anymore. That's basically what he's saying. Now you got to go through PPP. We're not going through EIDL grants. EIDL grants are kind of, the money is gone. So we made a new one. Okay, this legislation was signed into law by President Trump on June 5th, 2020. That's not good news, guys. That's not good news. That is not good. As we move forward, yesterday everybody's yelling at me. Oh, you're anti-Pelosi because she's holding back our stimulus check. You're just anti-Pelosi. You're a Republican. You're just a Republican. Hey, today I'm anti-Rubio. So all you Republicans can say, oh, you're just so anti-Republican. You're anti-Rubio. No, I'm mad at Rubio. Yeah, I'm mad at Rubio, just like I'm mad at Pelosi. Fire them all. I'll fire them all. I'm anti-politicians at this moment. And are we going to sit back and are we going to let them do that? Are we going to sit back and we're going to say, okay, yeah, you don't have to pay us? As we move forward, he goes on. As we move forward, Congress is continuing to work diligently to ensure that small businesses are able to survive the current economic uncertainty. We all know small businesses are central drivers in the economic growth and employment, blah, 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 vital, blah, 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 and continued support for Paycheck Protection Program in order to ensure the nation's small business can survive and recover from this pandemic. It is an honor and privilege to serve you, blah, 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 blah. Senator Rubio. So what does this mean? It means Rubio is saying, no EIDL. Go through PPP. Go through PPP for the bigger businesses that would definitely better for bigger businesses. I think that we've lost touch with small businesses is what it tells me. Politicians have lost touch with small businesses in the United States of America. But the small businesses don't have to lose touch with the politicians. We can call and we can let them know that we're still here. Is this good news? It's not good for the EIDL. And we all know that. We're all adults here. And I'm just glad I'm not one of those people that promised you that you would get your $10,000. Because I know there's some channels out there that are pushing the EIDL with false pretenses behind it to keep your clickbait. And I'm not going to be that channel. We can push for it. We can try for it. It's a shot in the dark at this moment, and I don't want to be beating a dead horse with you guys. I don't want to bring you to water that isn't there to drink. So I'm going to continue to try to find other grants and other ways for you guys to prosper and to get money for your businesses and your employees, to keep your staff, and these things that we need that our politicians seem to have forgotten that we need. Because I'll tell you, I don't know one person who got a $1,000 EIDL grant and said, oh, this is going to help me keep my staff. This is going to help me keep my employees. Anyway, guys, keep the faith. At this point, I'm just, I don't know. I'm just pissed. It's time to hashtag defund politicians.